Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for a brand new episode of our Cloud Tank series. Today, we're going to be discussing serverless cloud computing with my colleague Z Bag. Hi, Z. How are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Yes, it's a little rainy over here, but overall good. I'm excited to talk about the benefits and how serverless computing works.
Yeah, it's
So,
raining and we are talking about cloud computing. So
right, the
good.
irony there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you kind of describe how serverless computing works? What are the benefits and maybe some cons as well?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a new concept a few years ago. AWS kind of started that thing. It's like a serverless computing. And when I actually heard about that, and I was like, what are the use cases would be, and who will use that? I mean, and the use cases were not very clear on the first sight, you can say, when I first heard about that service. And but soon after it's kind of explored the cloud to world, and serverless computing is something like you can have like a piece of functions or code, and it runs whenever it needs to run, and you don't have to manage all the servers up and running all the time. And it's a very, you can say, next level uh, thing in the cloud computing world.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. Why do you believe some people get confused of how it works? Because I know there's
Yeah,
a
again, it's a name, serverless, and people say, okay, I'm writing code, it should run on some server. Why the
right.
technology called serverless? So so basically the way it works, it's you write a code and runs on a container service, so behind the scenes. And that's why people are like, you don't have to manage servers. That's the key point here, like
Right.
because of the cost savings and all the use cases that service offers and benefits. You don't have to manage servers to run your piece of code. And we can talk about more details about, like, so that's why people usually confuse, like, why serverless, and how my code will run without servers.
Right, exactly. So yeah, why don't we take a deep dive into the benefits of serverless computing?
Yeah, so benefits, usually there are, first main benefit is like you don't have to manage any servers. Um, and the way it usually works, like you write a piece of code and deploy to the cloud provider. It could be Amazon, Azure, or Google Cloud, or any other, and they all support the same service now, but it started with AWS. So main thing is like you don't have to manage servers, you manage only your piece of code. So that's the benefit is. When you're managing servers, there is a lot of complexities comes with it. You have to patch the server, make sure it's up and running all the time. But the main benefit of serverless computing, it's basically it's automatically scaled. Whenever you actually call that service, it's spin up containers and it runs your code and it shut down. So that's the main benefit. You don't have to keep your servers up and running all the time. And talking about the services, like uh, I mean, serverless, you have for AWS Lambda service in AWS, you have Azure functions in Azure, and you have Google Cloud functions in Google. So these are basically serverless services.
Mhm.
Another benefit is the cost. Like you pay only when you use the service. So it depends how many times you are calling that service. If you call like 100 times, you pay for only duration of the seconds that your piece of code is running. So it's not like you are running your servers in the cloud 24 by 7 and you have multiple backups and everything is running. Um, uh, it's automatically scales, automatically manage for you, and you pay only the duration of the second. And another benefit which is main is like you have option to pick whatever language or technology you want to use. For example, you can write functions in Python, Node.js, you can write in .NET, you can write in Java. So whatever skill sets you have, you can actually take benefit of this service.
So you can develop it your own way. Very
Yeah.
cool. And how does it work exactly from start to finish? What is the process? I know you briefly touched on it, but what is the full process of setting up a serverless infrastructure?
Yeah, so basically you have to sign up for a cloud provider, for example, AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, or some people also using Alibaba. But the way it works, like you write a code in a specific standard that your cloud provider provides you. Like
Mhm.
if you're writing for AWS, Lambda, there is like certain way you have to write your function, but it could be any language. Like if you're writing in a Python, the function, the parameters, the signature of the function, very specific. And once you
Mhm.
write the code, you actually upload to your cloud provider to service and set up an event where how this function would work. Basically, it's like could be an HTTP event or could be like a triggered by some other service. Um, and then just wait. I mean, then all you need to do is to call that event, and your cloud provider will automatically trigger that
Figure
event,
it.
run your function, and and the last thing is like you pay only for the duration of a second. So for example, your function, you have two functions in your environment, and one function takes like 10 seconds and other function takes like 30 seconds to run. So you pay only for 10 seconds and 30 seconds computing.
Also very cost effective.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what are some of the, in your experience, what are some of the common use cases in the industry?
Yeah, so like I said, when I learned about this technology or service, I was not sure like how it would be used. But
Mhm.
AWS and other cloud providers, they actually integrated it very, you can say very beautifully with the with other services. So for example, um, data processing. For example, someone uploads a file of to S3 bucket. So if they upload a file, there is like you can, it's basically an event and you want to process something with it. For example, you want to convert a Word file into a PDF automatically. So if somebody uploads a file, you can actually trigger your serverless computing functions, which is Lambda service, and its job would be only to convert that file and put it back to a different. Also, you can move data around. For example, somebody generates a record in the database, you fire an event, and you copy that data into some other location. Also, you lot of APIs development is happening through serverless computing. You don't have to keep up your API servers running all the time. You can write serverless APIs, and also it's a very good use cases with the cloud automation services. For example, related to security, if something happened related to your cloud environment, you can trigger an event and notify, take actions based on that. Plus, also you can set up some events on scheduler, for example, shut down all the servers during the night which you are not using and start up automatically in the morning. So this all you can do through the serverless computing.
And even though it does provide many benefits, what do you believe are some of the cons of using serverless cloud computing?
Yeah, I mean, uh, there are like benefits, so there must be some cons as well, and it varies, organization to organization. Some people are comfortable, some people are not. But in my experience, the main cons is like it's a little bit complex development when you don't
Mhm.
have servers running. Um, it's hard to, start sometimes because you are not sure where to go and test your code, how to write your code. So it's a kind of a little bit learning curve in the start. And That's also makes a little bit difficulty to debug your code as well, because that code is supposed to be run on your cloud provider environment, and developers don't have that infrastructure locally. But now AWS and Azure and other service providers, basically, they allow you to use uh, features. Basically, now you can actually test these functions locally as well. So
Okay.
when it was started, there was not easy way to actually test these, but now things are kind of
Evolving.
involving, and also like setting up security for these APIs and events could be a little bit uh, challenging. Um, um, I mean, again, you need experts who knows like how the data coming into this service and going out, and where you are calling what services. So make sure your security is set up correctly there. And
Mm.
also like sometimes, for example, if you are not using your function for a long time, the very first call usually takes a lot extra time, because it needs to spin up servers and make it in the ready state before it can actually used regularly. So it depends. So you might get sometimes inconsistent performance, but again, it
Okay.
varies case to case basis.
Okay, great. And so you kind of already touched on it, but what are some ways people can mitigate these cons if they do plan on adopting this kind of technique?
Yeah, so I mean, they can work with partner companies. One thing is like you can, if you have any experts in the team, I mean, of course, you can get the experience with them. Otherwise, it's in the start, it's a learning curve, but partners could help you to actually adopt or maybe migrate from other type of computing platform to serverless computing as well. And also like you need to have some people who have worked with serverless computing. But again, there are like quite a few use cases I've seen, like people, once they use it and they like it, and if the organizations have set up everything, like their DevOps pipeline and everything is like in working order, then I think the development is a breeze.
Great. So yeah, by pairing with the partner, it helps. Well, thank you so much, C, for your time and for the information. I definitely learned a lot. If you want to learn more about serverless cloud computing, go ahead and follow us on social media, or you can also reach out to us to the email displayed on the screen, and we'll be happy to help you with any questions you have or any projects, upcoming projects you have as well. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Z, as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.